Welcome to the Vibes Lab, your front row seat to the science behind VIA, the Vibes AI agentic platform making everyday brain health accessible to all. Every episode is designed to reveal insights that will enhance your cognitive health and well-being. Follow us to grab your lab key and experience limitless intelligence.
So what if I told you that you could physically hack your brain's productivity using literally nothing but two slightly mismatched musical notes?
Sounds a bit like magic, honestly.
Right. But just imagine this. You're sitting at your desk, you're staring at a blinking cursor, you've got this massive project due, but then, your phone buzzes.
An email pops up.
Yeah, an email, or you suddenly remember you desperately need to buy groceries, and bam, half the day is just gone.
It's the modern condition.
It really is. I mean, we are all just desperately chasing that rare, almost, mythical sensation of being completely and utterly in the zone.
Yeah, where time just kind of bends.
Exactly. The clock stops mattering, your self-consciousness entirely dissolves, and suddenly the task you were doing and you, the person actually doing it, just become this single, seamless thing.
It's a really profound human experience, honestly. When you hit that state, there is absolutely zero friction between your intention and your action.
No friction at all.
Right. You aren't narrating what you're doing in your head,
Yeah.
You're simply executing.
And almost everyone has felt it at least once, right? Even if it feels completely impossible to find your way back to it on a random Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, for sure.
So today, our mission on this deep dive is to figure out exactly how to build a bridge back to that state. We've got this truly fascinating document we're looking at today. It's called The Resonance of Flow, Tuning the Brain for Peak Productivity.
It is a great read.
Really great. And our goal here is to decode the exact neurological signature of this flow state and to explore something that sounds, frankly, like science fiction, but is actually pure measurable biology.
Yeah, how specific sound frequencies can literally tune your brain to achieve it.
Which is wild.
It is. And that's a crucial distinction we need to make right off the bat.
Yeah.
We are not just talking about, putting on some nice acoustic background music to boost your mood.
Right, not just a lo-fi beats playlist.
Exactly. We're looking at research that shows how you can fundamentally alter the physical, the electrical, and the chemical state of your brain using nothing but precision sound.
Okay, let's unpack this, because for a really long time, being in the zone was just treated as this vague, totally subjective feeling.
Yeah, just a good mood.
Right. And then the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi famously coined the term flow to describe this state of complete absorption, where the activity itself becomes the reward.
And that psychological framework was groundbreaking. But modern neuroscience has given us a whole new vocabulary for it.
A more scientific one.
Yeah. While athletes might call it the zone, neuroscientists actually refer to it as transient hypofrontality.
Transient hypofrontality. That is quite the mouthful.
It sounds super intimidating, I know. But it just means a temporary downregulation of the prefrontal cortex.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It is a highly measurable, totally objective shift in blood flow and electrical activity in the brain. It's not just a feeling. It's a literal neurological destination.
And this matters to you, listening to us right now, because let's face it, our modern environment is just actively hostile to transient hypofrontality.
Oh, completely hostile.
Right. Between the pinging notifications, the endless doom scrolling, and just the ambient noise of a busy office or a city street.
It's overwhelming.
Finding that flow state naturally feels harder than it has ever been. We are constantly just being yanked right out of the zone.
Constantly.
So if flow is this physical, measurable state, my first question is, what does it actually look like inside the skull when it happens?
Well, the neuroimaging data on this is incredibly precise, actually. The source material highlights this pivotal study. It was published in the European Journal of Neuroscience, and it mapped this transition beautifully.
Okay, what did they find?
So when a person enters a flow state, their brainwave signature changes dramatically. First, the researchers observe a significant, sharp reduction in high-frequency beta waves.
Okay, let's ground that a bit. Brainwaves are basically just electrical impulses, right?
Just electrical activity.
So what do beta waves actually represent in our day-to-day lives? What are they doing?
Think of beta waves, which oscillate between roughly 13 and 30 hertz, by the way, as the frequency of your everyday, normal, waking consciousness.
Like right now.
Exactly. It's the evaluative chatter. It's that voice that micromanages your day, asking, oh, Did I send that email? Am I doing this right? What will my boss think?
The stressful stuff.
Yeah. In a flow state, that anxious background noise essentially unplugs.
Wow.
And replacing it, you see an elevation in alpha waves, which are slower, oscillating between 8 and 12 hertz.
Okay.
Then, as you drop into an even deeper flow, you see a rise in theta waves, oscillating between 4 and 8 hertz.
You know, it sounds a lot like closing all the background tabs on a really struggling, overheated computer so the main program can actually run smoothly.
That is a brilliant way to put it.
I love the irony here, honestly. When we talk about losing yourself in your work, it isn't just poetry. It's literal anatomy.
It really is.
The medial prefrontal cortex, which acts as your brain's inner critic and executive warrior, is literally just powering down to save energy.
What's fascinating here is how flawlessly the subjective experience maps onto the objective data.
How so?
Well, Csikszentmihalyi observed that people in flow report a total loss of self-consciousness. And that maps perfectly onto neuroimagers seeing decreased self-referential processing in that specific brain region.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, you feel like yourself vanishes because the part of your brain that constantly constructs the concept of you is literally taking a break.
Taking a nap.
Exactly. So alpha and theta are the literal, measurable frequencies of flow.
All right, so knowing I need more alpha and theta waves is great, but I mean, I can't just command my brain to produce them.
Sadly, no.
Right. If I sit at my desk and yell at my brain, hey, give me theta waves, I'm just going to produce way more stressed out beta waves.
You definitely will.
So how do we actually trigger this shift?
You guide it using a mechanism called entrainment.
Entrain.
Yes. The human brain is fundamentally a resonant organ. Through a really well-documented phenomenon known as the frequency-following response, when your brain is exposed to a rhythmic auditory stimulus, it naturally tends to synchronize its own internal electrical activity to match that incoming pulse.
So it's like setting a metronome next to a musician. Eventually, even without trying, they are just going to naturally lock their playing into that beat.
That is a perfect analogy. The brain mimics the rhythm of its environment. And while we now have EEGs to watch this happen on a screen, humans have actually understood this intuitively for millennia.
I saw something in the notes about this, actually. The document mentions Siberian shamans and Native American healers.
Yes, it's fascinating.
How does ancient drumming connect to modern neuroscience?
It connects directly through the tempo. The text references this really interesting study from 2000 by a researcher named Michael Winkelman. He looked at traditional frame drumming ceremonies across various indigenous cultures, and it turns out that a very specific drumming pattern, exactly 180 beats per minute, produces a reliable, measurable shift in the brain toward that exact alpha-theta boundary we just talked about.
Wow.
Yeah, right around 7 to 8 hertz.
Okay, wait. I have to push back here a little bit.
Sure.
If my brain naturally syncs to the rhythm of its environment, why doesn't the constant, I don't know, droning hum of my refrigerator or the rumble of my washing machine just put me into a state of creative flow?
That's a fair question.
What makes these specific drumming sounds or frequencies different?
It comes down to predictability and signal clarity. The hum of a refrigerator is broadband noise. It's discordant and chaotic at a micro level.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the brain processes it as environmental static. But a drum beat, or a specific tune frequency, is a clear, predictable acoustic stimulus.
It has a pattern.
Exactly. The brain loves patterns. When it finds a steady, repeating mathematical pattern, it locks onto it. And that leads us to modern auditory techniques like binaural beats.
Right, binaural beats. I've seen these all over YouTube, Spotify, everywhere. But the explanation of how they work always sounds a little, I don't know, bizarre to me.
It is a bit mind-bending.
If I understand the source right, if I play a tone of 200 hertz in my left ear and a slightly different tone of 207 hertz in my right ear, my brain somehow creates a 7 hertz frequency just out of nowhere.
Well, I wouldn't say it fabricates it out of nowhere,
Right.
but rather it's an auditory illusion process deep in your brainstem.
An illusion.
Yeah. Your right ear hears 207, your left ear is 200. The superior olivary complex in your brainstem processes the difference between those two tones.
Okay.
And 207 minus 200 is 7. So the auditory processing centers of your brain generate a third internal pulse that's 7 hertz beat.
Oh, wow.
And 7 hertz corresponds directly to the upper theta range.
Huh.
By feeding your ears that mathematical difference, studies show you can actually improve focus, sustain attention, and actively quiet that anxious inner chatter.
That is just wild. The brain basically builds its own bridge to theta.
It really does.
And the source also mentions unweighted tuning forks doing something similar, right?
Yes. If you strike unweighted tuning forks near your ears, say, one vibrating at 136.1 hertz and the other at 128 hertz. The mathematical difference is 8 hertz.
Okay, the math tracks.
Right. And that external sound entrains your brain right to that precise threshold between the relaxed alpha state and the deep flow theta state. But the document points out a truly staggering detail about that specific 8 hertz frequency.
What's that?
It doesn't just trigger flow. It aligns perfectly with something called the Schumann resonance.
The Schumann resonance. Wait, that's the electromagnetic frequency of the Earth's ionosphere, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The cavity between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere acts like a giant resonating bell, and it naturally rings at approximately 7.83 hertz.
But, I mean, why would human brainwaves have absolutely anything to do with the electromagnetic frequency of the atmosphere?
It basically comes down to evolutionary biology. Human nervous systems evolved over millions of years inside this specific electromagnetic cavity.
Right. We grew up in it.
Exactly. That 7.83 hertz frequency was the constant background pulse of our developmental environment. So it makes total sense that our biological baseline for safety, relaxation, and homeostasis perfectly matches the frequency of the planet we evolved on.
That is so cool.
When you entrain your brain to that 8 hertz boundary, you are fundamentally oscillating in sync with the Earth.
That is incredible to think about. You are literally syncing your brain to the heartbeat of the planet, basically, just to knock out a spreadsheet.
Pretty much.
But this tells us that sound isn't just an electrical metronome for the brain. It actually triggers a whole cascade of physical shifts.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so the electrical signals match up. But how does a sound wave, which is really just wiggling air, actually change my body's chemistry?
Huh?
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the source dives into the work of Dr. John Bowley at Biosonics.
Yes, Dr. Bueller's work beautifully bridges the gap between acoustic physics and cellular biology. We typically think of sound exclusively as something we hear through our ears. But sound is mechanical vibration. It travels incredibly well through dense mediums like water and bone.
That makes sense.
When these specific sound vibrations travel through your skeleton and your connective tissue, they stimulate the endothelial cells, which are the cells lining your blood vessels, to release a molecule called nitric oxide.
Wait, nitric oxide? Like laughing gas. Oh, actually, no, wait, that's nitrous oxide.
Yeah, different molecule.
So what does nitric oxide do?
Nitric oxide is a critical vasodilator. When it spikes in your system, it actually causes the smooth muscle in your blood vessels to relax and widen.
Okay, so things open up.
Exactly. It immediately increases blood flow, it reduces systemic inflammation, and it signals your cells to enter a state of repair.
Oh, wow. So when people describe the physical sensation of being in a flow state, like your posture naturally relaxes, your joints feel a bit looser, you aren't holding all that tension in your jaw, and you just feel this effortless physical momentum, that isn't just a psychological illusion. That is the literal physical presence of nitric oxide flooding your bloodstream.
Exactly. The subjective feeling of flow has a direct, measurable molecular correlate. And you don't even need direct physical contact with a vibrating tuning fork to get this effect.
Really?
Yeah, Bewley's research suggests that simply listening to certain precise harmonic frequencies can prompt the nervous system to initiate that exact same nitric oxide release.
Which brings us to a really fascinating intersection where musical theory meets biology.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
The source specifically highlights something called the perfect fifth. For anyone who didn't take high school band, the perfect fifth is an interval between two musical notes that has a harmonic ratio of 3:2.
Yep.
Culturally, it's considered one of the most pleasant, stable-sounding ratios in music, but apparently it's biologically potent, too.
Incredibly potent. Sound healing research has documented that playing the perfect fifth interval physically resonates within the human skull.
The skull itself.
Yes. Specifically, that 3:2 ratio causes the sphenoid bone to vibrate in specific harmonic patterns.
Okay, let's visualize that. The sphenoid bone is this kind of butterfly-shaped bone sitting right behind your eyes at the base of the skull, right?
That's the one.
So we are talking about vibrations kind of like feeling the heavy bass of a concert speaker in your chest, but happening at a micro level right underneath your brain.
Precisely.
What does a vibrating skull bone actually do for productivity?
Well, this is where the anatomy is so elegant. The pituitary gland, which is the master gland of the endocrine system, sits neatly nestled right inside a small depression in that sphenoid bone.
Oh, wow.
It sits there like a rider in a saddle. When the perfect fifth vibrates that saddle, The mechanical stimulation actually prompts the pituitary gland to release endogenous opiates and cannabinoid compounds directly into the third ventricle of the brain.
Endogenous opiates and cannabinoids. I mean, your brain is literally self-medicating with its own naturally produced painkillers and bliss molecules.
Yes. It creates the exact chemical cocktail responsible for the blissful ease that people reliably report at the absolute peak of a flow state.
That is amazing.
Your mood lifts, pain dulls, and you feel a profound sense of well-being, driven by an entirely objective shift in your neurochemistry.
Okay, so we've got the alpha and theta brainwaves turning off the micromanaging inner critic.
Right.
We've got the Schumann resonance syncing our nervous system to the planet.
Yep.
And we've got nitric oxide and cannabinoids making the body feel totally effortless.
The trifecta.
But flow is also when I am doing my absolute hardest, most complex work.
Sure.
If my brain is so totally relaxed and just bathed in bliss molecules, how am I not just falling asleep at my keyboard? Like, how does the brain handle the heavy cognitive lifting?
This raises a really important question, and it reveals the final, crucial piece of the puzzle here. The answer lies in a completely different, much faster frequency range. Gamma waves.
Gamma waves.
Gamma brain waves oscillate between 30 and 100 hertz. Now, to be clear, gamma is not the relaxed flow state itself.
Right.
Alpha and theta provide the absorption. But gamma is the high-frequency whole-brain coordination. It is the heightened awareness and rapid information integration that makes peak performance possible.
So if alpha and theta are the smooth, quiet driving experience where you were just cruising comfortably, gamma is the underlying engine maintenance that prevents the car from breaking down while you're doing 80 miles an hour.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize it. Gamma is the metabolic infrastructure. And the science of cognitive resilience converges with the science of flow right at 40 hertz.
Okay, tell me about 40 hertz.
There's some truly landmark research highlighted in the text here. In 2016, Li Huizai's lab at MIT published a study in Nature, followed by another one in Cell in 2019, looking at Alzheimer's mouse models.
Okay, I have to ask, why do I care about Alzheimer's research in mice if I'm just trying to get through a 12-hour coding shift or write a book?
Fair question. Because it is all about how the brain manages metabolic waste. Yeah, when you are thinking hard, your brain burns immense amounts of energy, and it creates literal physical waste in the process, like amyloid beta proteins.
Oh, I've heard of those.
Right. In these studies, researchers found that exposing mice to 40 hertz gamma entrainment, specifically through flickering light and 40 hertz sound, actually engaged the brain's microglia.
What are microglia?
Microglia are essentially the brain's janitorial cells. The 40 hertz signal acts like a walkie-talkie broadcast, telling the janitors to start clearing out the toxic plaque.
Wow, it's literally clearing the plaque and keeping the neural pathways clean while the brain is working.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for the listener? It means gamma isn't a shortcut to feeling good. It is a long-term investment in a nervous system that is actually capable of sustaining a flow state without frying its own circuits.
That's exactly it.
If you don't have that gamma cleanup crew running, you hit extreme brain fog after 3 hours of deep work.
Precisely. Which is why the practical application of all this science is so deliberate. The source material discusses companies like Vibes AI, who are engineering audio tracks specifically to induce these states.
Yeah, they aren't just uploading generic rain sounds to Spotify.
No, not at all. They construct what they call a vibe drop, using incredibly deliberate neurophysiology.
The layers they use are fascinating. I mean, they start with a 432 hertz tuning convention, which is widely recognized for promoting a subjective feeling of ease.
Right.
Then they use crystal singing bowls because the long, pure, uninterrupted decay of the sound gives the brain the time it needs to accurately lock on and synchronize.
It's brilliant. And underneath all of that beautiful melody, the crystal bowls and the slow drumming, they embed a 40 hertz isochronic pulse.
An isochronic pulse?
Yes. Now, unlike a binaural beat, which uses two different tones to trick the brain into hearing a difference, an isochronic tone is a single sound that is literally being turned on and off 40 times a second.
Oh, so it's actual pulsing.
Yeah. It acts as a neuroplasticity anchor. It sits right beneath the track, maintaining the brain's gamma infrastructure and clearing the waste so you can safely and sustainably stay in that alpha-theta flow state.
They aren't forcing your brain into flow. They're systematically removing all the friction so that flow just becomes the path of least resistance.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi didn't just study flow to make people better, corporate employees.
Right.
He emphasized that spending time in a flow state is one of the primary contributors to overall human well-being and a sense of meaning in life.
We need it.
We biologically need this state to feel fulfilled. But the tragedy is that our modern, fractured environment makes it incredibly rare. We are drowning in chaotic, disjointed information.
Right. We're just marinating in broadband noise that keeps our brains locked in a state of high beta anxiety. But what we've learned today is that sound therapy offers an entirely different path. By using precision frequencies, calculated rhythms, and the right harmonic ratios, we can speak to the brain in its own biological language.
You really can.
We can invite it back to the integrated, quietly joyful state that it evolved to inhabit.
It is a biological invitation. And the beauty is that you can control your auditory environment. Your brain is always listening, and it is always trying to sync to the rhythm of its surroundings, whether you are consciously aware of it or not.
So the next time you need to prep for a massive presentation or you just want to spend a Saturday lost in a painting, don't just rely on sheer willpower or your third cup of coffee.
Please don't.
Pay attention to your auditory diet. Consider the acoustic mathematics you are actively feeding your nervous system. And that leaves us with a pretty intense thought to chew on long after you take your headphones off.
Yeah.
We've just seen how specific, intentional sound frequencies can heal the brain, clear toxic plaques, and induce peak states of creative bliss.
Incredible stuff.
But flip that around for a second. Considering the chaotic, discordant noise of modern city life, the wailing sirens, the unpredictable pinging of phones, the constant low-level hum of fluorescent lights, the relentless roar of traffic, could our everyday auditory environment be unknowingly entraining our brains into states of chronic anxiety and cognitive decline? What is the noise of your life doing to your brain right now?
Yeah.